Let's take a look at the big energy shift that we see coming late Sunday afternoon, which is Mercury moving from Libra into Scorpio. So, Mercury in Libra was an excellent energy there, being that Libra is an air sign that likes to find things out and likes to have balanced communication, likes to see it from everyone's perspective, and Mercury being our communication and how we give and receive information. So it would have made us quite curious, quite inquisitive, really wanting to get to know people inside of the relationship. It would have helped us with a lot of communication around what we do and don't want in relationship connections. And it would have really helped us, especially with Mars moving to Scorpio, have some uncomfortable conversations or really look at ourselves as well. So this is communication with ourselves as well, not just with other people. So really kind of working through your logical mind with an idea of balance in relationships. And so now we see Mercury moving into Scorpio and we get a little bit more intense, a little bit more purposeful around our thinking, and we get a little bit more secretive. So we've got Mars in Scorpio being quite secretive about how it is moving forward, how it is taking action. And now we see with Mercury moving in there that our communication is also going to get a little bit secretive. And it really intensifies the need to have people that we are communicating with and taking action with, that we have a deep bond with, that we have a deep understanding of, and that we feel understood by them, and we feel that they also share this bond with us. Scorpio is the sort of energy that wants to get to know all the dark little corners of your mind. And Scorpio energy doesn't really like connecting with people unless they can see into the darkness, and they prefer people who are comfortable there, who are comfortable to talk about these taboo ideals or talk about fears, talk about addictions, talk about things that a lot of people often don't want to talk about. So Scorpio is that deep getting to know somebody energy. So because it does emphasize secrecy and privacy, we might be quick to assume things, because it does also push our intuition into a higher space, okay? And so we might find ourselves intuitively feeling something and then really pushing somebody to try and get them to tell us their truth, their secret, their dark desires. And we just need to be really careful of that, because with that Scorpio influence, we can come across quite harsh. And it's the energy of, because the energy likes to get to know somebody on a deep level, it does also get quite possessive about itself and what it does know. So it is that energy that we need to be careful of thinking that our intuition is more important than allowing somebody the chance to tell us their truth. Okay, so just watching out that we are not creating any long-term issues or mistrust, or any long-term issues with intimacy, because we are pushing too hard on someone who is not ready to share that information with us. That is a downside to the Scorpio energy. Another thing that we need to be aware of is that we might tend to make some impulsive decisions, do some impulsive actions that we might have to apologize for later. You know, if you think Scorpio, scorpion, a primitive expression of that, scorpion, right? It's somebody who, you know, it's the energy of always thinking that you need to protect yourself, but that's strike first energy, okay? So just being aware of that as well, that those impulsive decisions could be coming through. And yeah, so we are more prompted to sanity and rationality, and we're not so driven by emotions, but that can, because we've got Mercury there, okay? But that can be quite imbalanced, because Mercury does want logic, it does want us to stay informed, but Scorpio again being that deep intuitive nature. So we might find ourselves having a bit of a sharp tongue because of that, because we are sort of in that possessive nature of Scorpio and in that logical mind of wanting to learn quickly, okay? And especially because Mars is also in Scorpio, so the two of them there together, Mars in Scorpio wants to take passionate and intense action towards its goals. It's very action orientated, and Mars likes being there. So with Mercury now joining it in Scorpio, we could find that our tongue becomes a little sharp and that we might be a little intense in the way that we are articulating our mind. So just be careful of the language that you are using and make sure that you aren't pushing on somebody too hard. Now, it's that feeling also of, our thoughts mixing with our feelings, and that idea of inspiring us to question people, to get to the bottom of things, to find out what's happening in our own lives, to dig through our own internal monologues, our own internal thought systems, and really looking at, ideas and conversations and things that come up in our lives where we might see them as shallow, where we might see that they're quite superficial, and we don't give any power to those things when Mercury is in Scorpio. So you might find that you are wanting to be alone more because the people that you could be with are quite superficial. So there is that idea, it's a little bit hermity in that aspect, where if you are surrounded by people who don't want to go deep, with a Mercury in Scorpio and with Mars in Scorpio, this is where that secretive nature comes from, because we would rather be alone with our own deep thoughts than around people who are uncomfortable to go to that deep nature. Okay, so because we do have a really nice depth and a really nice intimacy with that Scorpio energy, it is a really excellent period to talk about difficult issues regarding relationships, regarding money, and regarding life and death. So, it's a great time to be doing your will. It's a great time to be having conversations about inheritances. Scorpio is 8th house energy. So 8th house energy is a lot to do with sort of passive income, but in the way of income that requires the law. So really looking at inheritances, really bringing up that idea of, where you are investing, big property investments, where you might be receiving money that you didn't work for, all of those sorts of long-term money issues, how you are saving and things like that. It's a really good time to talk about those things while Mercury is in Scorpio, because that's our logic and our information and our communication looking at those deeper issues, and people are more comfortable to talk about those things. So you might find that money and wills and how the relationship is going to progress and what the future of that looks like, you might find those issues a little bit easier to talk about while Mercury is here in Scorpio. So if those things have been coming up for you internally over while we were looking at Mercury in Libra, because Mercury in Libra would have made us start thinking about those things, and it would have made us start seeing where the relationship was potentially unbalanced with our own needs. And so now with Mercury in Scorpio, we will feel a little bit more empowered, especially with Mars in Scorpio also, to take action on having those conversations, and they won't be so scary in the event of them happening. So you're sitting down to have them and they will not seem as daunting. And because of that, we will be happy to ask the questions and happy to search for the meanings behind people's words. We just have to be aware that when we are doing that, when we are digging with that Scorpio energy into somebody's truth, that we might not like what we find in there. So just being aware that that doesn't bring out that snappy, harsh tongue that can come with Scorpio in Mercury as well, okay? So another thing that can come up is our own fears and our own desires and the ways that others' lives impact our own. So this again can bring in that kind of Scorpio hermit energy, because as we start looking into our own fears and desires, I guess two things could happen. You can project that out onto other people, or it does make you a little bit more introspective on how it affects your situation and other people's situation. But with that being said, it does give us the craving, I guess, to want to bond with people in more intimate ways. And because we are able to discuss and ask all of the deep questions that are out there, we really are comfortable being able to bond in deeper ways. So it does make important relationships very easy to see with Mercury and Scorpio, because Mars there also. It can bring out that skeptic energy though. So remembering that we are in a secretive energy, and because of that, we can find that especially people who are overthinkers, people with anxiety, those sort of people might be a little bit triggered to overly emotional reactions with Mercury in Scorpio, because it does bring out that skeptic. You know, we're being quite secretive, other people are being quite secretive. So if you are an overthinker, really try and remember that during this Mercury in Scorpio phase. So that's until the 21st of November. We just need to remember that this energy is trying to, so even though we might be feeling that something is wrong in the situation, right? It's that digging energy, it's that really trying to get to the bottom of issues. And in doing that, we might feel like we're just looking for things that are wrong in the situation, particularly in relationships, because Venus is in Virgo, okay? She's been quite critical of relationships as it is. And so then we have this coming in of needing to dig through it. And it really could make us feel like we're just looking for things that are wrong. And we need to remember that this energy is just about trying to emphasize our own negative thinking patterns and utilizing that to get positive results. So anything that's coming up that's quite negative, we need to look at that and see if that is something we can shift to get a positive result out of. So this energy will help us talk about those things with people, bring them up in situations, in relationship situations, work relationship, family relationship situations. It's going to make us very comfortable to be able to bring these things up. And then by eliminating all of these ideas and all of this negative information that is coming in, that we have now dug out with our little searching brains in that Scorpio deep searching energy, these things are things that don't serve us anymore, and so we can clear those out and make room for things that will. Because Scorpio, again, being that 8th house, we are looking at death, birth, and the whole cycle of rebirth, okay? So it is the whole purpose of going deep here with Mercury and Scorpio is to find the things that we can remove, okay? So that is why it is making us comfortable to have these conversations. That is why it is giving us a little bit more intensity, a little bit more intuition into our own natures, and a bit more of that purposeful thinking in order to find the things that we can transform or throw away in order to best serve us. So that is Mercury and Scorpio until November 21st. Really try and lean into it if you have been facing some situations where you needed to get some deep emotional thought off your chest, or if you needed to do some very important communication in relation to your long-term financial abundance. Okay? Thank you very much. Stay weird.